Hello, everyone. We are live and big day today. So, you know what? You're getting double the videos. You got our reaction earlier to the Oscar nominations. Some good stuff, some bad stuff, but that was just our initial thoughts on it. We've gotten to ruminate, we've gotten to nap, we've gotten to do a lot of things that let our thoughts marinate on it. So, we're here to break it all down, give some thoughts on nice surprises, some snubs, who got in, who didn't, all of that stuff. Looking at the overall crop of nominations, though, Anthony, what are your overall thoughts on this morning's
I think we
nominations?
have to remind ourselves, and I think I said this on the reaction, that even though that predicted 10 for picture didn't surprise us, that is
Hmm.
still one landmark pick lineup that we've
Yeah.
never seen them, I think, get it this right. I mean, we have an
Hmm.
assortment of big blockbusters, the smaller independent films, experimental films, films that maybe play it safe, but we appreciate it because it gives us the serotonin we want from like a classic type of Hollywood picture. I think that was incredible. I think the director five is very admirable. I think having
Hmm.
two international filmmakers in that category, two very different international films at that, is incredible. And then if you want to, I guess three really with Yorgo too. Uh,
Yeah. Yeah.
that movie has just become so part of our canon this award season, getting the second most nominations, that it's I don't even it's weird, I don't even think of it as, and it has Emma Stone. It's a
Yeah.
different thing, it's somewhere in the middle. But yeah, I think between picture, director, we had just a lot of really inspired choices. Zone of Interest and adapted screenplay I was very excited to see. And
Hmm.
yeah, I mean, listen, my two favorite movies of the year. Now, we talked about it. I've reflected. Poor Things is now my second favorite film of the year. So,
Hmm.
Poor Things and Oppenheimer, favorite movies of the year.
You did well. You did well.
Nominations. I was feeling
I
pretty
did
good this
not,
morning.
but yeah. 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 May December got one. I'm
Yes,
holding on to that one, but
and it deserved
let's.
one. I know you would
It
disagree.
deserved more,
Frankly,
but
if there
yes.
was only one nomination for May December, I'm glad that Sammy Birch, first time screenwriter, didn't
Yeah,
get
I'm happy for her.
nomination. That was the place to honor it if they were going to honor it in one place. Though I think they should have honored it in more categories.
I think the acting, I mean, every aspect of that movie was incredible, but the acting, I think, is maybe pound for pound the best acting of the year.
Yeah.
But let us do it category by category. And gosh, let's do it that style.
Okay.
Starting off with Best Picture, not much to discuss here, really. This is the 10 that everyone had. Oppenheimer is probably winning. It could be holdovers, but holdovers didn't get director. So,
It didn't get director and it didn't get Dominic Sessa for supporting actor. I think
mhm,
that's what you needed to see for you to make the claim that this can take Oppenheimer out. I just don't see that happening. I think Oppenheimer
mhm.
got in every single category that it needed to get, and every single category we expected it to get. I mean, what more do you need proof of that this movie is in? Just everybody's in love with this movie. So I think this
Yeah,
is
yeah.
clearly Oppenheimer. Though again, I think we have to acknowledge movies like Anatomy of a Fall, Zone of Interest, even Past Lives. These are not, I feel like, traditional Best Picture nominees that you would have seen 10 years ago. And I think this speaks to the now 11,000 members of the Academy. This is you're seeing the effect of that. And that's great. And I think that's wonderful. And it's making these crops so much better.
Yes, yes. It is truly Oppenheimer's year, as they say. Um, but yeah, great, great crop of nominees overall. Still would love to see May December there, instead of maybe Maestro, but can't
My,
complain. This is
that would have been your alternate. That was the one that you felt was most
That's
deserving.
the one I would take out,
Okay.
and that's one I would put in and take out. Yeah.
Mine, I think, would be Origin. That would be my plus.
Origin.
Yeah.
What would you take? You gotta take something out.
Oh, all due respect, and I'm very happy for Mr. Scorsese. He became with his
Oh
10th
yeah.
Best Director
Yeah.
nomination. Now has the record, taking it from his lovely friend Mr. Spielberg for the most nominated director and Best Director. I would have
Mhm.
taken Kill as the Flower Moon out. I had some issues with the point of view of that film and its pacing. So Origin for me, I think, is also a film about American history and just world history. So I
Yeah.
think they're comparable films, and one I
Yeah.
liked a little bit more. So I would put Origin in.
Okay. And yes, we will get to Melton in 1 second. Let's go to director now,
Mhm.
where this is our five. This is a pretty great five. They went with, I think most people were thinking they'd either do Glazer orchestrate that they wouldn't do both the international picks, but they did do them both. The director's branch continuing to be more
Yeah.
international, and Yorgo is kind of more international
I
compared to
think
at
he's
least
helped.
Nolan and Scorsese.
He's
But
helped by Emma Stone. I think
mhm,
that helps him. And The Favorite too. I mean, that was the most nominated film of that year. And we should note that Poor Things actually improved on The Favorite, got one extra nomination.
yeah,
Favorite got 10, and led with Roma, would also got 10. It just
mhm,
shows you how crazy it is that you can get 11, more than the last one, and now be in
mhm,
second. Um,
yeah,
yeah, I think this is a great five. I think this should tell us that there isn't just one international pick. A lot of times,
spot, yeah,
I feel like the last couple of years, be it Hamaguchi or Winterberg or Oslin, like we think there's only one, and this shows that there can
mhm,
be two if the movies are strong enough and if the movies are different enough. I think that's what also
yeah,
speaks to the strength of these performers here. The performances here from these directors. Uh, yeah, I think, oh, we shouldn't mention Alexander Payne becomes the first person since Martin McDonagh for Three Billboards to both get a DGA and a BAFTA
and
nomination,
that,
and then miss the Oscar. Which
mhm.
I think those are two comparable films. Well loved, probably the number two in
The
picture.
directing's not the standout of either of them,
The
is what I
writing
would
is
say.
definitely what leads those films. And yeah, it's also I think the actors lead those films. Those are writers and
Mhm,
actors pushing those films. Um, and yeah, I mean, we should talk about it. I think we both were kind of assuming that Greta Gerwig was going to miss here. We were losing confidence in her in the last
mhm.
couple of weeks. She did not get in. Of course, all three of her, and people are forgetting Nights and Weekends. Wasn't that her first co-directing?
Yeah, yeah, it was. So,
So,
yeah,
setting that aside,
she's still the first
um,
to get first
yeah,
female director to get 3, films
in a
nominated Best
row,
Picture, which
yeah,
in a
consecutive.
row. It's very rare for a director to get, like,
Yeah.
3 in a row.
And
So
I don't know. Like she would have been in the running for me. So would have Ava DuVernay for Origin. I mean, there were a lot of great films that I would have and directors that I would have nominated here. Um, and yeah, I think this speaks a lot to a lot of previous Warner Brothers blockbuster favorites. Denis Villeneuve did not get in for Dune.
mhm,
Bradley Cooper
yeah,
did not get in for A Star Is Born. I think it was too late that people realized that that was the trend that Barbie was setting. Um,
mhm.
because when you
I
look
think
at it through
BAFTA is
that
when people
frame,
realized.
yeah, when you look at it through that frame, it does, you can understand the omission despite still feeling that she should have been in here. And I
Mhm.
listen, this is why I think director should be 10 nominees. I don't understand why we have 10 lead actors, 10 supporting
I'd
actors,
say meet
10
in the middle, make it
screenplays, and 10
make it,
pictures,
like,
and
8,
yet 5 directors. It doesn't make sense.
but then it's just gonna be the 10 Best Picture nominees probably.
All right. It was
I
not always. I mean,
I
listen,
guess.
there's a long history of 5 pictures, 5 directors. They didn't always line up. I
That's
just think
true,
that
that's
there's
true.
no reason why this specific craft, some would argue one of the most important or the most important craft,
Mhm.
is limited when all the other above the line people have at least 10 nominations.
Yeah, that's true. I think there should definitely at least be more spots. I mean, Barbie wasn't my favorite movie of the year. I did enjoy it, but I think I would honestly even still consider having her in there just because of, I mean, she crafted this huge, successful, like game-changing historic film. So I think I'd consider her, but I really like this lineup a lot. I don't have any complaints at all. Um, and then yeah, Nolan is winning is the main thing
Yeah.
there.
Done.
Uh, yeah, Oppenheimer sweeping. Runner-up American Fiction is interesting. It definitely did overperform. I
Well,
still I know I've talked about it with you in adapted screenplay. I still think it can win in that category. I think it's shown it can upset probably Barbie there, but I don't know. We talked about it also last time that maybe Gerwig missing director causes more people to want to vote for her in adapted
it didn't
screenplay.
happen the last
Um,
time, and everybody
mhm,
thought that she would benefit for Little Women when she was omitted, but then Taika Waititi and Jojo Rabbit took the win there. So I don't know.
yeah,
Adapted is definitely a tough category. I think adapted. I'm assuming Oppenheimer will be covered in other categories, and that will be a battle between American Fiction and Barbie.
yeah.
One of our smallest films versus one of our biggest, so it's interesting there.
Mhm,
Um, yeah, I think this it's interesting because she wasn't nominated. Margot Robbie, of course, we'll get to, was not nominated for Best Actress, though they are nominated in other places. But you could also argue everybody but um, Yorgo, because he Tony McNamara wrote the screenplay solely. He has nothing to do with the
Mhm.
screenplay for Poor Things. And Scorsese, who did not get a screenplay nomination with Eric Roth, like Christopher Nolan, Jonathan Glazer, and Justine Triet, they all have nominations elsewhere. So,
Yeah.
it's not like, Greta Gerwig already has her nominations. Well, so does more than half the category. So I
Mhm.
don't think that's a fair complaint, especially if we all agree that she was deserving and did deserving work. Listen, they all did deserving work.
Yeah.
It's tough. But she's nominated again, and I think she's definitely cementing herself as a very populist filmmaker, and
Mhm.
just like Nolan, you know, I mean, Nolan was, I believe, nominated for picture for Inception, was not nominated for director.
This is only his second nomination.
Yeah,
Yeah.
his first directing nomination was for Dunkirk. So I think that just shows you that if that's the trajectory that Gerwig wants to go on, and she's even said as much that she wants to have a career similar to Christopher Nolan,
Mhm.
then just because she misses for Barbie doesn't like there will come a day, just like Saoirse Ronan,
Yeah.
that she will get on that stage, and
Yeah.
maybe it's this year for screenplay. So I also
Maybe
think
together.
we don't need to bemoan a tragedy with Greta Gerwig and Margot Robbie. They're
No.
both
And I
nominated
mean,
today, and they're wonderful people.
only one woman has ever been nominated twice before too. So I mean, it's still a little bit of a boys' club, is what I would say.
I always
And they
forget
still
Jane
look,
Campion.
yeah, Jane Campion, and they still look down a little bit on the bigger fair.
Yeah.
But yeah, and apparently Yorgo is when you're talking to him directly. So we can say Yorgos all we want because I don't think we're ever going to be talking to
Unless it's
him
fucking on the
directly.
show.
Yeah,
It's fun to say that.
welcome. Yeah, it is. It is fun to say.
Yeah.
Yeah, Celine's song would have been a nice surprise, but I mean, worth mentioning here as well. Only 2 nominations for Past Lives. I know we both predicted that, but I think that was probably clearly the
I
number
thought
10.
Greta
Oh no,
Lewis,
you predicted Greta Lee. Yeah.
because I
Um,
felt I wasn't strong on Margot Robbie,
mhm.
and which I had reason to suspect, but it went in the opposite direction. So
Yep, it did.
maybe
It did.
that's the transition to Best
That
Actress.
is the transition to Best Actress. First name announced, Annette Bening for Naiad. I feel like I kind of have to apologize because I was, even before, like during the summertime, I was just throwing out Naiad because I thought it would be a contender. It turned out to be a kind of contender, a decent contender. Honestly, it might have been number 11 in Best Picture if we're looking at the other options. Probably either that or May December. But the movie came out. I wasn't a huge fan of the movie. The performances, I mean, Jodie Foster's good in it. I wasn't a huge fan of Annette Bening.
Listen,
But
she's getting
we,
awarded, I think, for her athleticism, maybe above anything
mhm,
else, her commitment
yeah,
to the role, and she is good in the film.
because she's Annette Bening. I think she's going to continue her Glenn Close track of getting lots of nominations, not tons of wins. And I think we were also talking about this, something that I kept bringing up. 2 things with this category. It's very rare. It's only happened 3 times for all Best Actress nominees to be in Best Picture films. Last time was 1976. It was looking very likely this year. Turned out it didn't happen. So still only happened 3 times. Annette Bening sneaking in there. And also, looking at the crop of Best Actress nominees this year, almost every year there's a veteran, older actress, established actress nominated. And she was really your only option amongst everyone.
Yeah.
I think they like having at least one veteran, and we see that in most of the categories here amongst the nominees. So I mean, it makes sense, and this is
And she
she
was the
got an at
SAG
SAG.
nominee too. Yeah,
Yeah.
she had precedent. I think I'm more surprised when we look at the history. Is you look back, somebody will still have to explain to me what happened in 2016. How Annette
Mhm.
Bening doesn't get nominated for 20th Century Women,
Yeah.
but then gets nominated for Naiad.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting category.
Mhm.
I'm interested. I feel that despite Annette Bening getting in here, I don't think that changes the race. I still think this is Lily Gladstone versus Emma Stone, and it really just comes down
Maybe Sandra.
to
I
maybe.
think she could win at BAFTA, and then I think that could make her a third horse in the race.
I just judging from the applause at the Academy Theater at the Samuel Goldwyn Theater this morning when they read Lily
Mhm.
Gladstone's name. I think just like Michelle Yeoh last year, I think there's a lot of support for this actor
It
to
really
finally
comes
get
down to who wins
a
SAG,
spotlight.
I think.
Even so, I could see. Oh, wait, that's right. Lily Gladstone did not get a BAFTA nomination. So
I think it's probably Sandra or Emma at
if
BAFTA,
Emma
and then
takes SAG, I do think it'll be hard to surmount.
yeah. If Emma takes BAFTA and Lily I think whoever takes SAG is who I'm going to predict to win, to be honest. because I put more trust in that than BAFTAs at this point, because BAFTAs were off last year. They were off with the nominations this year as well. So
Yeah.
I think I'm going to put my trust in them. And yeah, everything else pretty much went as expected. All of these four are clear top four.
Emma Stone becomes the second actress to be nominated in the same year for producing her film and getting a acting nomination. Of course, the first being 3 years ago for Frances McDormand, who won both when she won for Nomadland. So another feather in the cap.
I don't think it'll happen this year, but yeah. Could have had Natalie Portman and Margot Robbie in here as well for that stat, but did not happen.
I would love if Emma Stone went and joined Lucky Chap. I think the power of Emma Stone and Margot Robbie as producers, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, they should have a little, like, one of those round tables talking about acting and producing those movies. But yeah, I wasn't a huge fan of I mean, Benning's not. It's not like she's bad in the movie. I just think that's a spot that could have gone to someone like Greta Lee or Natalie Portman. But that was never going to happen.
Ingenue Ellis Taylor.
Lots of options.
Yeah.
Great category. I do think the people in the the auditorium are journalists. Yeah.
Mostly journalists. A lot of the people who cover for the trades, and you know, you'll probably get a couple of maybe representatives from the studio. But yeah, it's mostly because that's why they do the break, really, is so that the people who are in the room can then catch up with the nominations, write down what's happening, and then we do the second batch. So yeah, it's mostly journalists.
Yes. But you need the journalists on your side to win. So best actor. This was very expected. This was our SAG 5. Best actor continues to be very consistent at SAG for going 5 for 5. I think there's the most consistent category there to do that. Bradley Cooper, Paul Giamatti, Coleman Domingo, I believe only the second gay man after Ian McKellen to be nominated in this category. Amazing for that. Also could have had Andrew Scott, but I don't think we ever thought that was, at least after he missed BAFTA, that wasn't going to happen. I'm most interested in who you still think, as we have people in the chat talking about, who do you think is winning still?
This is where I think this comes down to SAG, because if SAG goes Paul Giamatti, then I think you have to take that really seriously, because Oppenheimer's the more popular movie. It made more money. It's more successful. It's winning ensemble. So if Cillian doesn't win there, then you see that there is real love for Paul Giamatti. He has the overdue narrative. He has the original character, and it's a way to give holdovers something other than supporting actress. I think personally, I'm feeling that this season is kind of shaping up similarly to 2016 again, where it was Casey Affleck versus Denzel Washington. And Denzel Washington was later breaking, bigger character, bigger performance. But I think Cillian Murphy's was more respected on a craft level, the meticulous of that and the specificity of that performance. And so I'm leaning Cillian Murphy. I do think that people love this movie, and I think they definitely credit him with a lot of that. So, but SAG will be the ultimate bearer of truth here.
I think so.
I want to just mention your point about Andrew Scott, because I do think that speaks to, and all of us strangers in general, and a lot of films this year, that December is too late. You cannot open your movie in December and expect to be a major player. Color Purple got 1 nomination for Danielle Brooks. And as I said on our nominations predictions, I think that primarily goes to the Oprah factor, and that she's playing the Oprah character. And if anything, that was the thing that you were paying attention the most to of that film. All of Us Strangers, The Iron Claw. I mean, there were so many films that I think people absolutely loved, but it weren't in the conversation enough, especially in a year this strong. I also think that, zone of interest aside, I think a lot of these films benefited from being widely accessible by the time the nominations period was out. And I wonder if screeners are not all that important as much as they were maybe 25 years ago. Because everybody has Apple TVs and everybody's streaming everything anyway. I think the availability of these movies means that they have a better chance. And gatekeeping them in the theaters in December only. I'm all for theaters, but it seems that the movies that did that and held their movies were not benefiting this season
It
at
is
all.
it would be an interesting study to see because Zone of Interest did play its release pretty well, I'd say. I don't think it overperformed, but I think its December rollout, its pretty limited rollout, did work out pretty well for it compared to, like you said, all those other December movies that it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I'd be interested to see the different strategies that all of them took and why
And
Zone of Interest
I
worked
think Zone
better.
of Interest was because A24 already had Past Lives, and that was, I
Mhm.
think, our earliest release of the Best Picture contenders, I believe.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and so Zone of Interest, I think what they're doing with that is they want to go, I believe it's like opening wider and wider over the next 2 weeks. They want the bump they're going to get now, where a
Mhm.
five-time Oscar nominee nominated for Best Picture Director and Screenplay, people now go out and see it because it's just opening in their theaters. That's what they were doing, and we'll see if the box office
That's
then.
what movies used to do all the time, and it
Yeah,
hasn't really worked out lately, but it did work out for Zone, so
yeah. The only
I
other
don't know.
time I think it worked out recently was 1917, and that was in a
Yeah.
truncated award season when the voting, like the show, was in 2 weeks from now.
Mhm.
So the
Yeah, I
ceremony.
wish,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think that's just something to keep in mind that you've got to be, I think, in wide release before Thanksgiving to really
Mhm,
have a chance at being a major player. If you hold it to the end, thinking you're going to do what was done years ago, it's not going to work.
mhm. Yeah, I think both of these would have had a better shot, Iron Claw and All of Us Strangers, at maybe getting love next year, because I think next year might be a little less crowded in terms of awards contenders, but we shall see, we shall see.
Also, it's just
Um,
the studios. I mean, All of Us Strangers was Searchlight. Was it Searchlight?
yeah, it was Searchlight, yeah,
Which had
and
Poor Things.
mhm,
A24 was the
A24.
Iron Claw, which already had Past Lives and Zone of Interest, and that's great for them. I
Mhm.
don't know if they've ever had
This is
two
their first year of having 2 in
with
Best Picture,
pictures. So like they were already booked. I think that's the other thing is, and that might just be like it's an unfortunate thing for those movies, a fortunate thing overall that the slate
yeah.
was
Mhm.
really strong this year from a lot of studios, and they didn't
Yeah.
need to balance out their portfolios as much because these movies, some of these top contenders were filling in everywhere, and that maybe wasn't always the case.
Mhm.
That's another thing
Yes.
potentially.
And back to the actor race, I right now would lean SAG going to Murphy just because that movie made a ton of money,
Mhm.
and that is a very populist voting body with a lot of people, like 160,000 members in it. So I think more people have seen that movie. But as we see with SAG, they do go for like narratives more so than any other voting body. And I do think Giamatti has more of a narrative than Murphy does.
And
Working
Murphy
actor
will
finally getting
win
his
that night. Murphy will win the ensemble
the
award.
ensemble.
So
Hmm.
that's the other thing you have to keep in mind with SAG. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so I'm interested. I think more than even SAG potentially because that ensemble category could fruck us up a little bit.
Mhm.
Let's see what happens at BAFTA because BAFTA, we know Killian Murphy maybe has a little bit of an advantage, um,
Yeah. But they
but
liked
they
holdovers that were
loved
there.
holdovers. I mean, they
Mhm.
nominated Alexander Payne, they
Yeah.
nominated the whole trio, um, and so I think BAFTA is also a place that we can look to because if Giamatti performs better at BAFTA, I think that then speaks to that performance being taken very seriously.
Mhm.
And given that it is more of a comedy than compared to Oppenheimer, that I think will then give people confidence in Giamatti going into the Oscars.
If Giamatti wins at BAFTA, I don't even if Killian wins at SAG, I'd consider putting Giamatti at number one
Yeah.
just
We're
because.
very listen, we are blessed. Even though again we've talked about our own sort of issues with the character like like not the performance, like the character that Lily Gladstone plays in Kills the Flower
Mhm.
Moon, the lack of her presence throughout the entire film. The fact that
Yeah.
we have an acting race between Lily Gladstone and Emma Stone and Paul Giamatti and Cillian Murphy, like that's our
Mhm.
contenders. Again, another reason to be blessed this season. I mean, that
Yeah.
no matter what combo of that group it is, you're giving it to such a deserving person, such deserving
Mhm.
winners.
For sure. Yes, happy for Coleman as well. I do think Sing Sing will probably be a much bigger contender than Rustin, the early 2025 Oscar prediction, than Rustin was this year. I think that's probably A24's big horse next year. So I think that will probably do pretty well. I think we both agree Oppenheimer's definitely winning, and that Holdovers I think is still number two. I would bump Poor Things up higher than I had it before as well. Um, that'd
I
probably be number three.
It's tough because I do think that I mean you can't deny Poor Things just really it got 11. It's in everywhere it needs to be to win.
Mhm.
It is a weird film, but as we say
Yeah.
every year, we definitely after last year, weird films can do great if it's respected, and I think
Mhm.
people respect Poor Things incredibly so. I would then say it's those two and American Fiction. Quite honestly, I think
Mhm.
it didn't go crazy with its overperformance, but Sterling K. Brown carrying over from SAG,
Score.
the original score nomination, the fact that it
Yeah.
has the acting ensemble nom at SAG shows that the actors are really behind it, and I do think it's a contender to win that adapted screenplay category. So it could be Spotlight, it could be an adapted screenplay, and that's all you need. Win screenplay,
Mhm.
that's all you need. I don't think it's going to happen, but I do
Not in
think
the year of Oppenheimer.
yeah,
No.
I think that I would put it third above Killers of the Flower Moon, above Barbie, above some of the other top contenders.
Yeah. Yes. And we got someone who predicted American Fiction score. I'm sure that gave you very good odds on Gold Derby. Um, and yeah, I think that's pretty much it for Best Actor.
Yeah,
And I agree that they need to do something with the theatrical run, and just planning out some of these award contenders
yeah,
better than they are right now. Um, Supporting actress. This wasn't too crazy. Emily Blunt, Danielle Brooks, Jodie Foster, and Divine Joy Randolph, I think, were all pretty expected at
yeah.
that. I think those were pretty much your top
I
four.
think that was your top four.
And then America Ferrera is your fifth spot. We talked about it a little bit in the reaction. I think that that Critics' Choice speech really helped her, because that speech couldn't have helped her at SAG because voting had ended by that point. But I don't know. I think that was a widely seen speech, and also like we talked about in this reaction as well. I think out of every performance in that film, she has the most acty, clippy thing with her monologue. I mean, it's very similar, maybe not as well written as Laura Dern's monologue in Marriage Story, which is pretty much the sole
It's
thing
pretty well
that.
written. I'll stand by. I think it's a great scene, and listen,
Yeah,
she's the human element of that ensemble.
she
I think
is.
there's a lot of love for her, a lot of love for her career. I remember going back to, if you watch the Fandango big ticket interview where they had, it
Hmm.
was Margot Robbie, Issa Rae, Kate McKinnon, and America Ferrera, and there was just a lot of love for her and
Hmm.
what she represents. And I think this fifth spot came down to what movie did they like the most, what movie did they see the most, and that's when you look at the other contenders we were considering, Taraji P Henson in The Color Purple, Rosamund Pike in Saltburn, Penelope Cruz in Ferrari, Julianne Moore in May
Hmm.
December. They went with Barbie, which was the Best Picture nominee and
Best
the one
Picture.
that they had seen. I think that's
Hmm.
something we also had to consider. I just think we were going too much with our guts and feeling like that type of performance isn't what they go for. But Barbie is unique enough that you can understand why they went for
Yeah, and
her. Yeah,
it's pretty rare for supporting actress to go 2 for 5 in terms of performances that are in Best Picture. So if you were going to throw another person in there who was in Best Picture, it was either America Ferrera or Sandra Hüller for Zone of Interest, and I think America Ferrera made
yeah.
a lot more sense in that situation to me.
And she wasn't
Um,
already nominated. I think that helps
mhm,
too. And I also think that with um, America Ferrera, the thing that was really holding me back, I did put her in. But when I really felt that Margot Robbie wasn't going to get in, I just didn't see this reality that we're living in now, that Margot wouldn't get in and America
mhm.
Ferrera would. But I think that just teaches us um, to look at every
Speaks to the
category
competition. Yeah.
independently, and that the competition itself matters. I pride myself. I think when I look at my predictions, I'm looking at the overall scope of what is the
Mhm.
the overall trajectory, because I think when you
Yeah.
start to look at these little things, you miss the big picture. So like something like costume design for Oppenheimer, that's something that doesn't necessarily seem like it's going to go that way, but the reason I predicted
Mhm.
it and it ended up paying off is because it just made sense given the trajectory of Oppenheimer overall.
Yeah.
And so maybe this was a category where that hurt me, because I think the biggest thing keeping me from predicting her was the Margot Robbie admission I felt was coming.
Mhm. Yeah. And I agree. It is hard to be mad at America Ferrera. Like, I personally wouldn't come even close to nominating her. I just don't think that that character is given enough to warrant a nomination. I think there's like Julianne Moore, should maybe even Rachel McAdams. There are lots of performances that I think should be like
Great year.
winning conversation in this category. But I think she's a classic. What we've seen in the supporting race is a coattail nomination, just because the film is so strong. She comes along with it, and she has one of the standout moments of the film. And yeah, Baumbach has gotten both of his monologue actresses, and I don't think she's going to be winning like Laura Dern. Divine is clearly going to be
Yeah.
sweeping this category.
I think this
But
is
yeah.
an easy win for the holdovers, which definitely has a lot of support.
Hmm.
There's still 1% I will
Emily
reserve
Blunt.
for Emily Blunt, because I think just the fact that she's the same thing with Cillian Murphy and Paul Giamatti. Emily Blunt has been in this industry for, I mean, what, 20 years at this point,
Yeah,
and has a lot of respect. And if the certain momentum builds the same way Jamie Lee Curtis built to the last second, I think it's possible. But I also think it's lessening by the day. I think Divine Joy Randolph is such a deserving member of that ensemble and a wonderful person, and she will most likely
yeah,
win the category.
yeah. And we didn't have a clear sweeper last year in that category, whereas I think this year we do have a very clear sweeper consensus winner.
And I
Um,
unfortunately, I do think that what hurt Angela Bassett in the end was that she was in a Marvel movie. I think that was the biggest strike against her.
mhm,
And it wasn't a Best Picture contender. Holdovers is both. It's both a
yeah,
Best Picture contender and one that people are taking seriously. And I think that's why it will benefit her as well.
yeah, for sure. Um, let's see. Yes, they did. We'll get to Sterling in a second, but it's nice to see TV actors or actors known for some TV work, uh, getting into the big leagues, I guess is what they would call it in Hollywood. But I think they're equally great. Um, but yeah, let us move on to said category, supporting actor, the sad category for me. Um, I'm happy for Sterling K. Brown. I thought he was good in the film. Once again, I probably wouldn't nominate him, but I think he's one of the better parts of that film. I think, especially that speech he has towards Jeffrey Wright at the end. I think it's one of the most important scenes within that film, and I think he does a great job with it. I also like the scene where he's dancing with his mom. I think there's some great subtle work there that he does.
And a great monologue
Um,
too at the end.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. Robert De Niro in Killers, Robert Downey Jr., Oppenheimer, Ryan Gosling, and Barbie. All expected. They got in everywhere. They got in here. And then Mark Ruffalo ended up being the poor things guy to get in instead of Willem Dafoe. Um, I think we're both probably happy. I think we both liked those performances, but I think you'd agree. Ruffalo, I preferred of the two. I think he's in more.
Oh,
He
for
gets more
sure.
to do. He's funnier.
I
So yeah.
like I love Robert Downey Jr. in Oppenheimer, and I am totally in support of his win, which he will be
Hmm.
winning. But Ruffalo, any other year, I would be so behind. That is such an original character, and I think also because we haven't seen a man in Yorgos's film, like the last two films, like The Favorite and
Hmm.
this. Like seeing a man do that type of comedy and that type of humor, I just thought it was as wonderful and as revelatory as seeing Olivia Colman in The Favorite or Emma Stone in this. Like it had a different flavor, was such a unique character. I just love him in that movie. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, as we said before, like he's doing a Marlon Brando impersonation, like he
Hmm.
rises to that level. So yeah,
He's very funny.
I love that Ruffalo is here. I'm happy for Sterling K. Brown. I think we should mention. I'm doing the quick math. So we had
Hmm.
Bradley Cooper in Maestro, Coleman Domingo,
Yeah.
who is both playing a queer character and is a queer actor. Um,
Hmm.
Annette Bening in Naiad, Sandra Hewler in
Jodie
Anatomy of a
Foster.
Fall, Emma Stone in Poor Things, Sterling K. Brown. I'm putting Ryan Gosling in.
Why not? Why not?
I think he's on the
And don't
scale.
don't forget Jodie Foster.
Jodie Foster. So that's eight. That's eight of the acting nominees that are either queer
Yeah.
characters, or the
Hmm.
history of today was that Coleman Domingo and Jodie
Or
Foster were
Ken.
queer actors playing queer characters.
Hmm.
Two. I think that's definitely a record. So that's
Yeah.
also something to note today. I
It's been
think we're
a
leaning
great
in.
year for queer
Yeah.
characters in cinema. But
There's
yeah,
the silver lining to Naiad, Jack.
yeah, I guess. I don't know, maybe you could consider Natalie Portman's character queer in May
Anything Tom
December.
Haynes touches
And yeah,
is
even if
somewhere
all those
slightly queer.
characters are, yeah, they should still count. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would nominate any. I might nominate Mark Ruffalo. So I'm not a
Oh, really?
huge fan of of this category. I think out of these five, I'd probably vote for Mark Ruffalo at least.
Yeah.
But like Charles Melton, Milo Machado Grainer, there's plenty of other people who I liked a
I
lot
mean,
more. But
Dominic
I don't.
Sessa, even though he should be in lead, if he
Yeah.
was in this category, I would definitely consider him. Milo Machado,
Hmm.
Charles Melton.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I listen. You got Downey, Gosling, and Ruffalo for me. That's great. I was very
Hmm.
happy with that three.
Yeah. Yeah. I still I don't have any issues with any of the performances. Like last year, Jamie Lee Curtis being nominated kind of upset me, so I don't have any issues like that here. But oh yeah, another Ironclaw. I might nominate someone in supporting actor, definitely in lead actor. But yeah, I would probably vote for Ruffalo here. You'd probably vote for Downey, right?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
Black.
I would vote for. Who would I vote for in supporting actress? I'd probably vote for, out of these, Divine Joy Randolph. I'm guessing you might vote for Brooks.
No, I would go Emily Blunt.
Oh, interesting.
I think more than anything on this show, I've defended that performance. I think it is.
Yes, you have for
shattering and so well crafted and calculated.
I'd vote for Killian, an actor. You probably agree with that.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I'd vote for Sandra, an actress.
I love Sandra,
but you're gonna go
Emma. I think I gotta go Emma Stone.
Yeah, she'd be my number 2.
Listen, it's not my fault. My faves all gave the best performances of the year. That's just
they all did good. They did very good.
Sandra is incredible in that film. I think, to me personally, if I and we'll do our own picks
very soon,
our fun crossover special. I would put my love for anatomy and screenplay. I think that's where because I really think it's everything about that film just comes together so well, and it starts on the page. So that's where
Charles Melton will be nominated at our ceremony. You can put that on his IMDb page, just as important as an Oscar nomination, probably. And yes, it does still sting. I'm still not over it. I don't think I'll be over it until we start talking about next season, to be honest. I think every time supporting actor comes up, I will bring up Charles Melton. But yeah, that is that. Let us talk about adapted screenplay. Oh, we have got some people talking about Emily Blunt's performance. Do you care to defend again, or do you just want to point back to
click on a couple videos? I'll defend it till the end of time, for all eternity.
Yeah. I do think Sandra can take BAFTA. I don't think Benning can take SAG, though. I think Benning, the nomination, is the win for that.
I should note, though, if Julianne Moore was in supporting actress, it would be a much tougher decision for me.
I would vote for Moore.
But out of those 5, I would go Blunt.
Yeah, this is a good list for supporting actor. I definitely have Jamie Bell. Oh, Jamie Bell would definitely be in my list. Melton, and I would put Sessa in lead, but if he was in supporting, I might put him there.
I believe if you are in more than 40% of your film, you are in lead, and I think
he's in nearly
54% of the film. So he's a lead for me, and I think I would have nominated him. He was incredible. I think he was as good as Hedges in Manchester by the Sea. So if he got nominated, I think Sessa should have as well.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think.
Adapted.
I was looking real quick.
And supporting actor.
Milo Machado Grainer, I think, would have been there. If we were doing supporting actress, I would have thrown in Rachel McAdams, of course. Yuko Tanaka, who plays the principal in Monster. I think she was really good.
Yeah. Would you put the mother in lead actress or in supporting actress?
It's tough.
And where would you put the kids? It is tricky with that movie.
The main kid is lead. And it's tough. I mean, I'd just go ensemble for them, but I would put one of the monsters, probably Yuko Tanaka, and then we've talked. I mean, I think Patti LuPone and Beau Was Afraid was just.
She was great.
Wonderful.
She was great.
Delicious. One.
Yeah. Monster's so good. I can't wait until we can talk about it when we do our own nominations. Adapted screenplay, the big surprise here, Killers missing for Zone of Interest. I think we agreed the weakest one, if one were to miss, were Killers. It ended up happening.
The one that missed at BAFTA.
The one that missed at BAFTA. I think it's got the most, I don't know if I'd say controversy, but I think the most amount of people who have issues with any of these scripts are with Killers in the way, I mean, you have issues with it, so you can speak to it, the way it handles whose perspective it takes in the film.
I've read the book. I don't think it's a good adaptation of that story. The story they told in the book, you didn't know what was going on until halfway through. The movie plays its cards from the second it starts, and I think devalues that narrative. So I'm all for Zone of Interest taking that nomination. I think that when you see it, it is a film that has leached onto me like a parasite. It is so captivating, and it is so terrifying.
You've had quite a journey with a lot of releases this year, because I remember when you first saw it, you weren't super high on it.
I was so disturbed because again, the general conceit of the film, the log line, is that you're watching this family trying to live this idyllic life as
Yeah.
Auschwitz is right behind. And I think, of course, you're unsettled by it. So I think the
Mhm.
more I realized how effective, and this was the same thing with Under the Skin. I was totally turned off by that film, Glazer's previous film, and then the days and weeks, it just continues to rise in my opinion of the film. So I've definitely come a long way, but deservedly so. I feel it's a great film.
Mm. Yes, yes. I can't wait to see it whenever they choose to release it in anywhere besides like the 4 major cities or whatever. I want to see it, people. A24, if you're watching, send me a screener or something. I would take that as well. But they're not watching. All of Us Strangers would be on my list here. I would agree with that. And I think we agree here it's either Barbie or American Fiction for the win. I'm leaning American Fiction right now. I imagine you're
I
going to
gotta
be leaning
see
Barbie.
what the sentiments. I gotta see how like Barbie performs at other guilds. Let me get a little bit of the taste of the reaction.
Hmm.
How do people really think that now Little Women and Barbie, Greta missing Best Director, does that really help her? Because I don't know. Like frankly, WGA just said it was an original screenplay. This is really the only major voting body who thinks it's an adapted screenplay, and I don't think
Hmm.
it's not a demotion. Demotion.
No,
Yeah,
yeah,
that's
demotion
the
is the
word,
right word.
right? It's not denotion.
Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah.
Listen, we've been up all day. It's not a
Just one letter
demotion.
off, but yeah. Yeah.
But I think, I mean, frankly, if this was my architecting of the category, I would put Barbie in
Hmm.
original, and I would take out, even though I love it, I would probably take out Zone of Interest and put in Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret.
Hmm.
That would be my 5. So it's tough. Yeah, I do think it's Barbie versus American Fiction, and I'm leaning American Fiction right now. It's
Yeah.
American Fiction's on the rise. Barbie seems to be a little bit on the fall.
Hmm. I agree. I hope you enjoy it, Fraser. I hope I get to see it soon too. I don't. It might be within an hour and a half
Yeah.
of me. I don't know. I'd have to look. Yes, I do think Nolan is getting his Oscar. Poor Things. Maybe it's worth mentioning. I just think it's probably number 3 in this category, but it did overperform.
I think American Fiction and Barbie now, because this is the thing, Oppenheimer, Poor Things, and Zone of Interest are definitely
Much more
director movies because they
direct.
all got nominated in directing. American Fiction and Barbie are not director movies, and I
Hmm.
think we're going to see that come to
This
fruition
is
where
where they
people
can show it.
they can show it
Love.
off, but also this is clearly now people consider those movies writer focused or
Hmm.
writer forward. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah,
Hmm.
and
Agreed.
I think when I went through the Best Picture lineup, I believe Past Lives, unless it can win screenplay, but I don't think it will. I think Past Lives will be the only film out of the Best Picture lineup not to get an Oscar, if American Fiction wins this category, is what I believe.
What do
So
you
there
have?
might, again,
Zone? Oh, international.
Film will
Yeah.
win International, Maestro will win
Yeah.
Makeup. I think Anatomy of a Fall will win an original screenplay if we want to transition to
Hmm.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Misha.
and then
I agree
I'm
with that.
predicting, I think, even though Lily Gladstone will win Best Actress, I do think Poor Things will win one of the crafts, and I think it'll win costume design because, frankly, I just think they're designing the costumes that already exist for Barbie. I think production
Hmm.
design, yes, you created that world and made it tangible and real, but I think costume design, they'll throw some love um, to Poor Things, and that'll be Poor Things as a win.
I could see that. Yeah, that is definitely a race in both of those categories
Yeah.
between those two, I think.
I don't think
It's
Barbie is the costumes. I do not think will be as respected in Barbie as they were for Black Panther. Nor do I think they're as original as the
okay.
costume for Black Panther.
Hmm.
So if you're looking at big genre movie versus Yorgos round 2, like it was for Black Panther versus Favorite, I don't think the outcome will necessarily be the same.
SAG and BAFTA are both in. BAFTA is definitely first. BAFTA is in early-ish February, I believe, and I think SAG is in late February, but maybe it's in March. But not for a while. So we've got a minute to be talking about both of them. And we will definitely be doing something on Oscar night, and then definitely the following day talking about everything that happened. So you'll see plenty of us around that time. But yeah, I agree. I think Anatomy is winning original screenplay. This was the 5 I think most people expected here. Thank God May December got in an
I
Oscar
was worried.
nominee.
I was
My
real
God.
worried.
I don't know what I would do if I couldn't call May December an Oscar nominee, just because. Best film of the year, in my opinion. I think it should have gotten so much more, but at least it got this. I'm happy about that.
What do you think?
Yeah.
What's winning?
I think Anatomy of Fall is winning. I agree. It's between that or Holdovers, in my opinion. I don't think Past Lives has much of a shot at this point, just because it's only 2 nominations, which Women Talking did win last year with just 2 nominations, but I think that was a very different field of competition than it is this year.
Yeah.
It's competing with All Quiet, a war movie.
Yeah, I think the adapted screenplay last year was very barren compared to this, like compared to the both screenplay categories this year. I think what else? It was Top Gun, Living, and
Living.
Glass Onion, right? Like Women Talking did not have the competition that Past Lives has in this category.
Not at all. Not at all. Yeah, I think that's it for original screenplay. Animated feature. This was expected 4, and then instead of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which I think was probably number 5 out of most people's expected 5, Robot Dreams got in, which is interesting because this is everyone voting on the nominations, right? Or is it the animated?
This is just the animation branch.
It's everyone who gets to vote on the winner, right?
Yes, everybody gets to vote on the winner. So that's why, again, we see these smaller films come in, but it's very unlikely when you have the whole Academy voting that they're not going to go with the most popular film, because they're not giving, unfortunately, I don't think they give this category as much respect as they give Best Picture or Best Director.
Yeah.
It's why people, predict Klaus all you want, but Toy Story 4 is just the one that made $1 billion, is the one that people know. And I think that's why I think Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse will win this category over these other contenders. Though it's great to see something like Robot Dreams get in. This is a Neon release. It's a Spanish film, I believe. And it's great when these smaller films that, get that. And this is what awards I feel like are for. This
definitely gives it a boost.
More
people will see it now.
To the films that need this sort of involvement and excitement. And that's great for the team behind Robot Dreams. And yeah, I think TMNT was honestly hurt by Spider-Man being, I think,
very similar,
a little too similar. And I also think it's, hard because the thing that would make TMNT worthy of the nomination, Spider-Man is already doing. And so what distinguishes it? All these other movies, I think, all have different bona fides that got them this nomination.
Yeah. I do think it is a race for the win, just because it's not like either Boy and the Heron or Spider-Man got other nominations outside of this category. So I think it could
score for either, which I know some people were hoping for and predicting.
At least one of them, yeah. So I think it'll be close. We'll have to see. Documentary feature. I think the big surprise here was To Kill a Tiger. I didn't see anyone have that in their predictions. So there's always a surprise in documentary. Also, No American Symphony didn't get in here. Neither of the celebrity docs, American Symphony or Still, which I thought American Symphony might appeal to them more than Still. Still seemed like the sort of thing that they usually don't like. But
I leaned more American Symphony just because I knew that it was already going to get nominated in another category, and that always helps. And it did get that Best for Song nomination. But yeah, just the celebrity ones they just don't tend to go for. But I'm interested. Not only to see these nominees, but I'm interested to see what nominees of the Eternal Memory turn out to be, since this is the first
to be decided.
Where the nominees were to be decided during the ceremony. I thought that was so funny.
Yeah. Okay, I think we would agree 20 Days of Mariupol is now winning with No American Symphony there, is what I would say.
Unless like the Eternal Memory has like Oprah and the Obamas somehow behind it. It has some great people nominated.
Suddenly the Obamas are attached, International, a few surprises here. I think the main surprise was I think Lo Capitano is how it's pronounced, from Italy, getting nominated. Perfect Days got in when I didn't think it really would.
Great day for Japan with that and visual effects for Godzilla -1. Compared to France, which did not submit Anatomy of a Fall, which got 5 nominations, would have had a 6th here and would have won this category, I bet you. It would have been a very close race. But yeah, I think France really, they shot themselves in the foot with all the apparent political back and forth and squabbling with their issues with Justine Triet. She's having the last laugh.
She is. No taste of things here. No Fallen Leaves as well. I didn't have Fallen Leaves getting in there just because I don't know, for some reason I didn't see that as something that they would go for. I do think
we both had Teachers Lounge, so I think that
we did both have Teachers Lounge. I think 20 Days in Mariupol I was expecting to get in here was the other one. And Totem.
Because we think it's getting in other categories. We think that helps. I think the year of Flea getting in animated, documentary, and international has now warped our mind, thinking that will happen.
And Honeyland.
Yeah, Honeyland too. But Zone of Interest, hands down, will win this category for Best Picture.
Absolutely.
That's why it would have been fun to see, if
an actual race.
If two movies are in Best Picture, how do you distinguish? And they had both had 5, right? They both got 5 nominations.
Yeah, they both got in director and screenplay.
Anatomy then got an acting award, and
editing
got sound, and
it didn't get production design, did it?
No, it didn't. It got what else? It got one more.
Sound, and it definitely got something else. I'm sure they'll let us know. It didn't get cinematography, didn't get production design, didn't get score, but it got something. I'm sure. And yeah, I'm still distraught and frustrated about Charles Melton. And Spider-Verse was a great score. And I still need to see Society of the Snow. I'll have to watch it soon.
Oh, international feature.
Oh, that counts. Yes, obviously. Yeah, duh. It's
literally looking at us on the face.
The easiest one to remember, but we forgot. Yeah. Okay. I think that's our sign to move on from that. Cinematography, they went with the ASC 5, which they usually don't do, but they did do this year. As we were just talking about, Zone did not get in here. El Conde did. It's black and white, which helps, I guess. It's kind of like the Bardo of this year, maybe.
Yeah, and again, another film that now gets a boost because of that. But frankly, I would have given it to another film that also got no nomination, so it would have definitely been a boost. I would have definitely nominated Saltburn in this category. I think that was the most deserving category for it to be nominated in. Lena Sangren, just impeccable work there. But other than that, you can't complain. Maestro, Oppenheimer, Poor Things. I mean, that 3, it's such strong work. I think Oppenheimer will win because Hoyte van Hoytema is just incredible, as is Jennifer Lame in film editing, who we'll get to. And the score. I think those 3 individuals are just so well respected. And the former of the two, Hoytema and Lame, have not won Oscars, so I think that will help them as well. But yeah, Poor Things and Maestro, just beautiful work, beautiful films.
Yes, I would probably give Saltburn the win, to be honest. But yeah. And all of the nominees do have some sort of black and white in them. So yes, they do like their black and white in cinematography. Let's speed through the rest of these. Costume design. This was the expected 5. I think the only difference I had was I had Maestro instead of Oppenheimer.
Yeah, that one came through for me. In a morning where I don't get to hold my head high on too much, that was one I was like, I'm glad I switched from Wonka.
Yeah. From Wonka. Yeah, I definitely, after Wonka missed BAFTA, I wasn't sure about that. But I think this is, it was between Barbie and Poor Things. I'm still leaning Barbie in both of those design categories, but I think it's a race, especially since Poor Things overperformed.
Yeah, and I think they're going to want to give it something. The same way that Little Women wins this category, because it's the one place for it to win something. And I do think the designs not only are more original in Poor Things, but I think, you look at Emma Stone talking about like the condom dress, about when she like comes in, like that's what she's wearing, like that yellow material when she's in Paris, right before she goes into the house that Catherine Hunter's her prostitute house. There's a lot of layers to literally and figuratively to the costume design in Poor Things that I think if you take a closer look at, you'll see a lot there.
Lots of shoulder poofs.
And a lot of shoulder poofs. So I would go Poor Things.
Yeah. Also, this is a nice observation. Boy and the Heron, Godzilla, Zone, Anatomy, and El Conde got nominations outside of international feature. So
very good.
Good year for international cinema as well. Best film editing. I think the only difference I had was I had Barbie instead of Poor Things. Anatomy of a Fall made it in.
Yeah, I should have. I don't know why I didn't predict that. Maybe because I thought it was I wasn't expecting them to be that aware and that good. But yeah, that was
it's a courtroom drama. I think the editing in it is very, very good.
It's sensational.
It's amazingly paced. It's so fast.
And I would give it the win any other year, but what Jennifer Lame accomplished with Oppenheimer was one of the greatest editing feats I've ever seen. So
yeah, and she's gonna win. So
my favorite editor wins an Oscar. So happy.
Yeah, she's gonna win. She shall. Yeah, Godzilla getting a nomination. Hello, Yutaka. I knew you would be very happy about that because I didn't expect it to get anything. And visual effects was its only shot, so happy for that. Let us see. Base makeup and hairstyling. This was the expected 5 as well. Gold I got in. You didn't predict gold though.
I
But
didn't. Nobody's seen this movie. How does
they saw the makeup on Helen Mirren's
I
face though, and
guess
they were
they saw
like,
one
"I'm
image,
gonna
but
nominate that."
yeah. I mean, I thought they're like Beau's Afraid. I think would have been a fun pick here. Or there were movies that didn't make the short list that I think would have been great here.
Guardians.
But the other ones, the other four, I think you can't complain with. I personally would go Oppenheimer, but I think this is going to be Maestro's time in the spotlight.
This is his one chance at a win. Yeah.
Which means that Bradley Cooper, if Maestro wins, both of his films have won one Oscar. Stars Born for original song, Maestro for best makeup. I do not think the ones that he wants to win. So
probably not what he wanted, no. But at least he can call them both Oscar-winning films.
Yeah.
Not everyone can
He's 2 for 2 on that front. All eyes now on Joker Folie à Deux.
He's just waiting for one of those wins to be himself, I think. But yeah, production design. Oh yeah, Napoleon was the surprise here instead of Zone of Interest.
Yeah, that was interesting.
I didn't expect that.
I think personally, and maybe you were saying this too, like Zone of Interest made sense because they went for Parasite in production design. And that, right? They did go for Parasite in production design. I'm not making that up.
For a nomination, yeah. I don't think for a win. I think they did.
Let me look it up because I'm doubting myself. Because if they did it,
because they built the entire house, I think they did.
Let's see. Let's see. Yeah, they did. Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. Yeah. And so because of that, like these were very similar films where the construction of that house and the believability in that setting is so important to the success of the narrative. And that's why, again, I was predicting it, especially because we knew it was an all-around player. So yeah, I'm surprised with Napoleon, but also I do think what we're missing here, I know Killers and Poor Things, these are period-esque movies, but they're not period in the way that Napoleon is period. And I think that's what helped Napoleon. It was traditional period. And when you have that one-to-one, it's kind of like the equivalent of a biopic performance. It's so clear to see what replicated that's
big castles and all of that. Yeah. It's much more grand than Zone of Interest. So I think that's definitely why that got in over it. Score. I think the big surprise here was American Fiction. We kind of already talked about that because of the jazz and all of that. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it for that.
Yeah, I mean, John Williams, 54th nomination record.
He's like Diane Warren.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think John Williams, you can never deny, is a master of his craft and is orchestrally doing things that, is always worthy of praise. I don't know if it's worthy of praise enough to get him into this category over other people like Mika Levy and
Joe Hisaishi.
Yeah, there's so many people.
Daniel Pemberton.
The score of Monster I thought was incredible.
Oh, yes.
It's tough. Again, I frankly would not nominate anything from Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny.
Me neither.
And I am Disney Lucasfilm's maybe biggest supporter, so that's something. But yeah, Oppenheimer. Done.
Yeah, Oppenheimer is winning. Easy peasy. Original song, I think the surprise here was, we talked about this a little bit.
You were behind this a lot.
The Killers of the Flower Moon, tribal song getting in over the Rustin song, which they didn't go, as we said in the reaction, for the social justice song, which they usually love. But yeah, I think they saw this as a nice way to honor the tribal aspects of that film, the indigenous aspects. So I think it's a very worthy nomination. I've listened to all of these. Honestly, Diane Warren's nomination deserved. It's a catchy song.
Was this movie even released in theaters?
It had to be, probably, right?
I don't think it has to be. I'm not sure. I think
it probably had some sort of limited, like, tiny.
I don't know if it's required for non-Best Picture categories. I just think that we're now getting to the point that was this movie even released?
Yeah, you can watch it on Hulu, I think. But
yeah, that's where I think it premiered. That's why I'm questioning it now. But yeah, I mean, other than that, it's down to the Barbies, and really, it's What Was I Made For, and that would be one of the most deserving wins in recent memory in the category.
Agreed. And back to the score lineup. Yes, and Phineas. I do think the score lineup out of all of the lineups might be the most disappointing.
The music branch needs to like
Diane Warren and John Williams just are everywhere,
and they both have won. They both have Oscars. We're not in the. I just don't understand at this point.
It's just name checking, but they need to remove the names. But they would still know it's John Williams for Indiana Jones.
Because this is the problem. Like yes, Meryl Streep gets nominated every year, and even though we're going through her biggest dry spell ever, currently right now.
Mm-hmm. We are, yeah.
Like there are people who show up. Emma Stone, her 5th nomination, 6th counting Best Picture.
Mm-hmm.
But those people are at the top of their game. Again, there are so many other songs that are as good as the Diane Warren songs. So like, why is it that every year, like, what's even the point? Like, if there's just going to be one category, one nomination,
She's got blackmail over someone.
yeah,
she's got something.
I mean, listen, I think they respect that she's just, a workhorse, and she's always creating these songs, and she doesn't give up, and I appreciate that. But that's what her Governor's Award Oscar was for. At this point, like there are other songs that I think are doing similar things, if not more important things. Like frankly, I would not at that point nominate 3 Barbie songs. I mean, they definitely had more of an impact
if they could.
Fire Inside.
And even some of the other songs, like the Spider-Verse song, I thought was pretty good.
Color Purple song,
but Color
Little
Purple.
Mermaid songs. Like, come on, songs that were actually songs in our cultural canon.
Yeah. Yep. She has blackmailed every one of them. Yeah, she has for sure. She's got something on everyone. Best sound, creator, maestro, Mission Impossible, Oppenheimer, and Zone of Interest. I think creator and Mission Impossible kind of surprising here. I didn't expect either of them. Mission Impossible now 2 nominations for the franchise when it hasn't gotten.
The 2 are for this one.
And then the creator, it's sci-fi. It kind of makes sense.
Yeah. I'm surprised they went for creator over like Guardians, because I feel like Guardians maybe is the more conventional.
I don't think Guardians was shortlisted though, so I don't think it was available.
Maybe I think there's respect for creator being an original film, and that's why.
I think so. I think there's a lot of respect for it technically.
And I think this is Oppenheimer though.
Transit. Oh, Oppenheimer's winning, for
sure. And I'm happy to see Zone of Interest here. That was a great pick.
That was, even though I haven't seen it from what I've heard. Visual effects, pretty much, I mean, creator, once again, there's respect for it. Godzilla surprises and gets in, as you talked about. Guardians, I had Napoleon in there. I don't think most people did, but it made kind of sense to me as a traditional VFX nom that they usually go for. And then Mission Impossible, as we said, one of the few nominations, or the second nomination, I guess, that this franchise has ever gotten. So yeah, I think that was I think the big miss is probably what didn't get in here.
Poor Things.
Spider-Man, I guess. Poor Things.
Looking into Indiana Jones.
Oh, Indiana Jones. I expected that,
But yeah, I'm happy Godzilla -1 got in, and I think it's probably down to that and the creator for the win.
I would say I agree with Mando here. You usually need to win visual effects. So like whatever movie is closest to Best Picture or has other nominations is usually what wins here. And I do think there's
closest to Best Picture would probably be Napoleon. That one got more above the line.
That's fair. That's fair.
I think I think creator is safe money, but I think Godzilla -1 actually the nomination represents something bigger and something that we don't tend to see in visual effects, which is why I feel like it has a good chance. Especially, I'm interested. Never have we talked about the visual effects campaign, but I think Godzilla coming back into theaters this weekend, Godzilla -1 color, that could give it a little boost. I think that there might be a little bit more goodwill towards Godzilla -1, and
I do think.
I mean, this would, I think, for sure, would be the first international film to win.
It would have to. Right? It would be the first Godzilla. It's the first Godzilla film to even be nominated. So
Godzilla and Mission Impossible.
Yeah, they're making history together, along with Napoleon and sci-fi Vietnam War. But yeah, I think there's a little bit of a narrative for the creator as well with that budget, but we shall see. And then the shorts, I think I went 3 for 5 on 2 of them, and 4 for 5 on the other one. But yeah, we will talk more about those and who we think will win those once we get to see them and know more about them. But quick mini stream. We're not doing our usual 2-hour long runtime here.
Mini stream that's an hour long.
Just an hour long, yeah.
Every other Gen Z person, they have short attention spans, but not us.
Not us. We're built different. We consider an hour nothing. But yeah, just our initial thoughts and reaction. I'm sure we'll have plenty more to come about all of these nominations. We have now entered, I think, the final phase of Oscar season. Got some ideas for nomination stuff, the Best Picture, films ranked, acting nominees ranked, all that fun stuff. You can expect sometime soon now that we have all of that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Any final words you would like to send out for this big day that
Listen,
we've
as we
spent so
always
much
say,
energy
the
on.
movies are the same quality they were 24 hours ago, but still, now there's the opportunity. We have a nice big window. If you haven't, or if you have, go see the movies, rewatch them. Something I love is always rewatching the movies that do get nominated and seeing them again, loving them more. And I think we're set up for a very fun award season, especially because my favorite movie is going to win everything. So I know
It's
I'm
gonna
saying that from a very,
it's gonna win
very
a lot.
wonderful place.
Maybe May December can win original screenplay. No, I wish, but no.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm
Thank
gonna
you,
keep
everybody.
complaining.
Thank you for always wanting to
Yes,
watch
thank
and
you
make
all.
for us.
Yes, thank you all so much. And we'll see you very soon, I'm sure. But yeah, big day. And we'll see you all soon.
Bye bye.